you just give me NIT tip times and a hockey start time?
Yes.
All right. Clay Travis is with us now from Outkick. Clay, I mean, your plans are made tonight. Dunaway has given you NIT tip times and a hockey start time.
Yeah, I'm. Look, this is the time of year when I'm actually kind of happy to take a breather. And by take a breather, I mean drive around the Little League parks everywhere for my own kids' games. So that's about 90% of my free time right now. I spent the whole weekend at a Little League baseball tournament. I coached last night, so I'm pretty busy with all that, to be honest.
Hey, wait, you coached? Did you win?
Yeah, we won. We had coached 7, 8-year-old coach pitch baseball. So I've been coaching now for it feels like a decade, taking a lot of time off my life. Let's be honest.
Hopefully, we got CNN fact checkers now checking Clay whether or not he actually won last night. We're working on that.
Do you get on the umps? I mean, is it that level where you can even get on the umps, or is this just pretty laid back?
Well, 7, 8-year-old, no. But as it gets a little bit older, yes. I'm calmer, I think, coaching than I am if I'm in the crowd, because when you're coaching, at least you feel like you have some control over the outcome of the game in some way. Whereas when you're sitting in the crowd, you don't really feel like you have any, that's probably more frustrating. I'd rather, I don't get super antagonistic or whatever if I have control. When I get frustrated is when other people have control and I don't.
Clay Travis, Outkick founder, with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. We were doing this story before the top of the hour, and I'll just get your reaction. I know you're not a big golfer, but Tiger Woods' plane is on the ground in Augusta. So automatically, Darren Ravel, your favorite Twitter follow, just tweeted that BetMGM has moved Tiger's odds to win the Masters from 66-1 to 50-1. It's kind of crazy to me that all his plane has to do is land in Augusta, and they immediately adjust his odds to win the event.
Well, that would be an incredible comeback just if he were able to play at all based on the injuries that we heard that he had sustained. I think it's probably more likely that he's just, there to maybe get out and see how he does walking around the course and everything else, because we talk a lot about the physicality involved in hitting golf shots, but you guys know walking that course is really underrated.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people kind of miss that. But that's a very relatively hilly course. For all of the time that you spend walking, I don't think that gets enough attention a lot of times in terms of the physicality involved in just walking. What do you think that is? Like 8 or 9 miles probably before all is said and done. It feels like over the course of 4.5 hours or whatever to play that course and walk and follow every shot and everything else. Now, I know you're not carrying your bags and all those things, but it is still a physically grueling outside of just the mentally grueling aspects of hitting your own shots. So he may just want to see how, kind of he holds up walking around and just being on the course. And, the odds of him winning seem to me to be 50-1. Seems crazy to bet on him to win the Masters. Meaning, if they played 50 tournaments, I don't think he'd win one of them right now. But I do think that it would be an incredible accomplishment for him to be able to get back on the course and return from the devastating car accident injury that it appears he had what doesn't feel like that long ago.
I'm coming off a documented 4-21 trip to Las Vegas in the sports books out there. I really donated to the economy when I was there last week for the opening rounds of the NCAA tournament. But I'm excited about.
You went 4-21 in your NCAA tournament bet.
4-21.
Now some of those. What
I always. Oh, well, if some of them are parlays, that helps. I don't think you should count, a parlay because your odds of hitting a parlay are pretty low. But what I always say is, first of all, you're destined to have runs like that if you gamble a lot, just based on the numbers. But it's just as hard statistically to go 4-21 as it is to go 21-4.
Correct.
So that's the improbability of that. Although nowhere near as enjoyable, obviously.
Yeah, in true friend fashion, it was a guy trip. So my buddy Mike Kennedy and a guy we affectionately call Runt went 21-4. They were just betting opposite of me. So they were smoking those fat cigars and eating steak. They were loving life out there. But this Final Four that we have, some people will complain that it's all the haves and none of the have-nots. But I'm excited about this, and I'm really excited about Duke and North Carolina. I want to know, as a longtime sports fan, are you excited to see one of the great sports rivalries play out in a Final Four setting? And it's the first time ever to really have meaning in a game other than bragging rights.
Yeah, and I think I saw, and this is pretty wild, that in Coach K's tenure at Duke, I believe I'm correct in this, he's 50-49 against UNC.
Oh, wow.
Almost, this will be the 100th game. Somebody can fact check me on that, but I think during his tenure they have played 100 times or 99 times, and this will be the 100th time that he's played against UNC or coached against UNC. I believe that number is correct, and that they are 50-49. Duke is all time in those numbers, which is, by the way, a sign of a great rivalry when you look over the course of basically 40 years and the two teams are basically dead even. And that the point totals are almost dead even too, which is pretty remarkable to think about over the course of two generations, effectively, of basketball rivalry. Yeah, I'm excited to see it. In general, I would rather see the top programs advance to the Final Four, the teams that are the most deserving. I think you can argue UNC should be there certainly as an 8 seed. But what Duke, what Villanova, and certainly when you look, I believe the numbers are in Kansas, 7 of the last 13 champions are in these 4 teams, and it'll be 8 out of 14 NCAA tournament wins in the last 14 years. So these are probably the teams that have most dominated in the last decade or so. And I expect to see some pretty phenomenal games.
Yeah, I'll save you a text later. I like North Carolina and the points, and I like Kansas giving the points. I know you're going to want those later.
Yeah, I'll file that away.
Hey, real quick before you go, Brandon Marcello, 24/7 Sports, was on the show yesterday. I asked him this question, and I would be curious your thoughts as well, because one of the answers involves your favorite squad. The program that is on the best ascension right now, on a recovery ascension, is at Arkansas, whose baseball has always been good, but they're really good this year. Sam Pittman has football headed in the right direction, and Eric Musselman back-to-back Elite Eights. Or Tennessee, whose baseball, I believe, is number 1 now, right?
Yes.
Rick Barnes just won the SEC tournament, and Josh Heupel had a surprisingly good first year. Who's got the better ascension going right now?
It's a good question. We'll see what happens in football, right? Because I think that'll be the determining factor. If Tennessee had a better run in the NCAA tournament, I think the answer would have been Tennessee, but losing in the round of 32 to Michigan was a really disappointing end to what is otherwise a very good year. I believe Arkansas's got 3 5-stars in basketball, which is pretty incredible. They are going to be potentially, depending on who returns, maybe the number 1 team in college basketball next year. I expect them to be pretty good in football, but I actually think Tennessee's going to be better in football than Arkansas next year. Now, partly that's a challenge of SEC East versus SEC West, but Tennessee should be, and I'm knocking on wood as I say this, Tennessee should be pretty solidly, I think, the number 2 team in the SEC East next year. The Hendon Hooker coming back for another year, the offense in year 2 of Josh Heupel should be even better than they were in year 1. I think if you factor in the 5-star, this is the highest-rated football recruit at quarterback Tennessee's gotten in a generation in Nico coming out of California. What is going to be, I would be very surprised if Tennessee doesn't have a top 5 recruiting class just based on the guys that they're involved in right now. So I think Josh Heupel is going to have things really rolling in football. But I think Arkansas is going to be number 1 in basketball potentially for next year. So I would probably be inclined to say Arkansas, just because as good as Tennessee baseball is, to go to the Elite Eight and potentially have the number 1 team in America in the preseason for Arkansas is quite the comeback.
You don't need,
and honestly, Tennessee has been, to be fair, Tennessee has been pretty good in basketball for the last, basically, they were number one in the country for a month, a couple of years ago. So they have been really, really good, won the SEC. Arkansas has not. And so the Arkansas basketball trajectory is a rocket ship.
You don't need a ratings boost, so no need for you to go walk across the stage and ever slap Buck. But your thoughts on the ratings went up 56%. Your thoughts on Will Smith and Chris Rock the other night?
I just think what Will Smith did is psychologically unstable and unacceptable. Anybody who's on a stage, whether it's a comedian, whether it's a musician, whether it's an actor, whether it's a speaker, you can't walk up on stage and hit someone on the stage based on what they say, period, no matter what. That to me is a straight line, red line, that isn't allowed to be violated no matter what. We can't create a world where what someone says justifies violence against them from a performance stage. I think what Will Smith did is crazy, unacceptable. I think it speaks to his psychological, and by the way, factor in also that he's 53. It's not like he's a 17 or 18-year-old kid who's particularly emotional and maybe isn't in control of his decisions from one moment to the next. Like as many of us who have been, 17 or 18-year-old kids can remember. He's 53. And I find it completely unacceptable. I think he should be charged with a crime, honestly. Even if Chris Rock doesn't want to press charges. I probably wouldn't press charges if I were Chris Rock either. But I do think the precedent of, hey, you can walk up on stage and just attack someone if you don't like what they say on the stage is completely unacceptable. And I find it disappointing that anybody is defending, Will Smith in any way. I think what he did is indefensible.
All right, he is Clay Travis. Follow him on Twitter at Clay Travis. Read him at Outkick and see him on Fox Sports. Clay, thank you for the time. Have a great week.
Hey, appreciate y'all having me. Thanks a lot.
All right, man. Take care. Clay with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.